My name is Vanessa Bradley, and I am 30 years old. I manage my mother's jewelry store, Jewelry Prytanium, as she is a jewelry designer. My husband Wayne is 32 years old. He is the designated next president of the family-run company, Bradley Corporation. Wayne and I have completely opposite personalities. But this mismatch works perfectly for us. And we're proud to say we haven't fought once in our 5 years of marriage. We started infertility treatments 2 years ago. Wayne's company is run by his father and his 2 uncles, and Wayne is the only male heir. They hold outdated views on male superiority and do not accept a female successor. Wayne's presidency seems to be coming sooner than we thought. The expectation then fell on me to bear an heir. One day, a woman named Cindy Holmes, claiming to be Wayne's mistress, contacted me. She suddenly declared she was pregnant with Wayne's child. I'll take Wayne's genes and wealth, the future president, for myself. I sharply responded to her frivolous attitude. Then you'll take HIV too, right? What? Cindy was momentarily speechless, but then continued. I've known for a long time that Wayne has HIV. This was an unexpected reply. It seemed like a probing conversation was about to begin. How do you know about Wayne having HIV? Did Wayne tell you that? That can't be right. I know everything about Wayne. It's been almost a year since I've been with Wayne. I'm carrying the long-awaited baby, so now I've won. Wayne's company, being family-run, has a rule that only blood-related children or grandchildren can succeed. Since Wayne's cousins are all female, he will become the young president. But Wayne's role doesn't end here. He has a destiny to bear a grandson, a male heir. You've had a tough time these 2 years. I've heard infertility treatment is mentally and physically tough. But now, that's all in the past. I will bear Wayne's child and be recognized as the rightful successor. Is that so? But we'll definitely be doing a DNA test. If it really is Wayne's child, I'll step aside. I married Wayne. The only male in a female-dominated family line with that resolve. Having children was part of the marriage agreement. If your baby really is Wayne's, I'll have to reconsider. That's why we need a DNA test to prove it. I'm actually relieved that a child has been conceived. Oh dear, don't push yourself, it's embarrassing. If it didn't happen in 5 years, it's too late now. My era has finally arrived. I've become a woman needed by the Bradley family. So, Vanessa, you'll divorce him, right? Your role is over. Hurry up and divorce Wayne and leave that house. Hearing the voice of Wayne's mistress, Cindy, for the first time, I could sense no intelligence in the way she spoke. I couldn't believe Wayne would fall for such a woman. It must be some mistake. But if Wayne has HIV, won't it affect the child? We need to include that in the tests. As you know, Wayne is in a position to become the next president. If you're to bear his successor, since I can't, it's inevitable. But the heir to a Bradley Corporation must be healthy above all. Wayne's parents will surely insist on thorough testing. Aren't you worried about being infected with HIV? Did you get tested? Wow, you're really optimistic and mentally strong, aren't you? Normally, when a husband's mistress suddenly shows up, pregnant with his child, the wife would be furious. Your calmness makes me wonder, did you know about me? Well, if Wayne has been living so carefree in front of you, I might have to reconsider my view of him. To be honest, I had been aware that Wayne had a mistress for some time. When I heard about Wayne contracting HIV, I thought it was a one-time thing from a brothel. In a family environment where one could not get upset over something as trivial as that, I tried to force myself to believe that 1 or 2 mistresses didn't matter. Wayne seemed restless since he got a mistress, always trying to please me. You must not really love Wayne. He told me it was a ruse marriage. Otherwise, a social butterfly like you wouldn't marry him. Wayne is quiet and always reads books in his free time. It's impossible for him to build a peaceful home with you. Our marriage did start somewhat like an arranged one. Wayne, who is awkward in speech but sincere and honest, is someone I found more intriguing than any other man I've seen before. Our marriage wasn't just for our family's sake, but it's true that it brought benefits to both our families. However, Wayne and I can confidently say it was a marriage of love. Shall I share something interesting with you, Mrs.? But this might hurt you. But you have the right to hear Wayne's true feelings. Do you want to hear this? You're going to tell me regardless of how I answer, aren't you? Are you ready? Here it comes. Are you prepared? After much provocation, Cindy started playing a recording of Wayne speaking. Vanessa is from a different world than mine. She should be with a man who takes her to parties, or a man who drives her around in a luxury sports car. She deserves a man who is sociable and has great communication skills to escort her. Someone like me, who spends nights reading in a corner, must be boring to her. I always wonder why a bright and beautiful woman like Vanessa married an introvert like me. I always feel intimidated. I'm always trying to gauge her mood. Not that Vanessa is always in a bad mood. She's always smiling, saying good morning. But looking at her smile, I sometimes wonder if this is all a dream. Even after 5 years of marriage, I still get nervous around Vanessa. When we walk outside or enter a restaurant, I feel like everyone's eyes are on Vanessa. And they're thinking, who's that unimpressive guy next to her? We're mismatched, aren't we? It must have been just by chance. Maybe it was just because Vanessa didn't have a boyfriend at that time, and she settled for an arranged marriage suggested by her parents. Hearing Wayne's thoughts was unexpected. I love watching Wayne read, so I always tried not to disturb him. If Wayne had been feeling so pressured living with me, it must have been hard. It's not surprising he sought comfort in someone like Cindy, who seems a bit clueless. See? You understand now, right? Living in constant fear of his wife, it couldn't have been fun. It's only natural he found a mistress. You have no right to complain. This is the first time I've met you, but I'd like to know more about you, especially if you're carrying the heir to the company. It's important to understand who you are. When I requested this, Cindy started talking about how she met Wayne. You have to return it in a week. Wayne used to visit the library where Cindy worked almost every day. He found peace in a space surrounded by books. You always come around this time, don't you? Cindy casually started a conversation. Aren't you an office worker? I take my lunch break at different times to come here. This became the start of their daily casual exchanges. I was surprised. You're the next president of a major advertising agency. What? How did you know? Your name is on the lending card, isn't it? You're always well dressed, wearing expensive suits and shoes. So I did a little internet search. Then I found your company's website. You're such a reserved person, but a capable businessman. That's very attractive in a man. Wayne was flustered, having never received such compliments before. Your ties are always stylish, aren't they? They're designer brands, but not overly flashy. Oh, my wife always chooses them for me. What? You're married, Mr. Bradley? But you don't wear a ring, right? I take it off during work. It distracts me, and I can't concentrate. My wife is a bit upset about it. Her mother is a jewelry designer. My wife used to aspire to be a jewelry designer, and she designed our wedding rings. But I take them off during work, so she worries I'll lose them. She says we can't recreate the exact same design. You come alive when you talk about your wife. She must be a wonderful woman. I'm envious. Wayne pretended not to hear and dodged Cindy's comments. Cindy was at the peak of her jealousy. She had assumed he was single. After a bit of searching, I found out he was the next president of a reasonably large company. What an opportunity! I won't give up just like that. I finally found my prince. Cindy did something a bit naughty. What? Why? Wayne sounded surprised over the phone. Surprised? You should be. I plan to shock you. How did you get my phone number? I saw it on the library card you filled out. Is that okay to do? It's personal information, right? That's not good. It's wrong. You're really serious, aren't you, Mr. Bradley? Even your shirt's top button is always properly fastened. What? Oh, yeah, that's true. When Cindy laughed, Wayne couldn't help but laugh too. It was then that Wayne's heart began to move. I'm happy about the call, but it's time to go home. It's a bit awkward. Are you worried about your wife? Do you share a bedroom? And sleep in a double bed together? 2 doubles. Wow, rich people are different. Your bedroom must be big enough to fit 2 double beds. Yeah, my wife is in the bath now, but still. I think it wouldn't feel right talking to another woman. Scared, huh? So when can we talk on the phone and meet up? What? Why? Why are things moving in that direction? Because we're friends. Friends? Oh, friends, huh? Wayne trusts people too easily. That's why he's been duped and shortchanged at work. Can you come to the library at 2 p.m. starting tomorrow? That's when I have my break. Then we can talk a lot more, at a cafe or a restaurant. Do you find it fun talking with me? Fun. I want to know more about you, Mr. Bradley. But you're still young, right? I'm already over 30. I think I might be boring for you. Mr. Bradley, you have low self-esteem. Let's be more positive. You seem like a different person from when you're at the library. That's just my work persona. Ah, my wife's out of the bath. I gotta go. Wayne ended the call, concerned about me. Even though he was supposed to be just friends with Cindy, he was already aware that what he was doing was wrong. From then on, Wayne and Cindy started having meals together during her breaks. Cindy got greedier and greedier. Hey, Mr. Bradley, how much money can you spend freely? As the next president, you must have quite a lot, right? I want more time with you. Could you rent a room for me? We can meet there, right? It doesn't have to be a luxury apartment. A studio is enough. I just want a space for us two. By this point, it's usually clear that she's asking to be a mistress. But Wayne didn't think that deeply. To him, Cindy was like a refreshing new breed of human, someone who brought excitement. Wayne rented a studio apartment for Cindy, and they started spending more time together there. Cindy relied on Wayne to the fullest. She was very cunning in her approach. Hey, Wayne, what's your wife like? She's the complete opposite of you, Cindy. She works at a jewelry store, right? An independent woman. Yeah, I think she's cool. But you're capable too, Cindy. I think so. Getting a librarian's license is tough, right? It's a job for life, and you seem to have a clear vision for the future. It's not that big of a deal. I didn't want to work in a large organization, so I looked for a job with a smaller team. And that happened to be a librarian. I'm not really into books. I fall asleep easily while reading. Such trivial conversations might have been comforting for Wayne. Apparently, he couldn't relax with me. And so, Wayne and Cindy's affair continued for half a year without my knowledge. But now that Cindy is pregnant, we need to have a proper discussion. I prepared a secret plan and went to Wayne and Cindy's secret love nest. There was Wayne, lying around in sweatpants. He never showed such a relaxed, or rather sloppy, appearance at home. Vanessa. What? Why? Cindy is pregnant, isn't she? I think we need to talk about what to do next. No, it's not. It's different. This is. If Mrs. Bradley divorces Wayne, then the problem will be solved right away. What do you want to do, Wayne? I think we should cherish the life we've been given. What about the issue with HIV? What if the baby is infected? We'll get it properly tested. So, you're saying we should go towards divorce, right? Wayne fell silent. His indecision comes out in this situation too. Hey, did you tell your wife about having HIV? We heard the test results together. Wayne had a high fever. And we didn't know if it was a cold or the flu, so we went to the hospital. That's where we found out through a blood test that it was the early symptoms of HIV. Since then, Wayne has been controlling the onset with medication. By the way, I tested negative. Have you had a proper HIV test, Cindy? Even if you haven't, I already know your test results. Wayne, do you know what Cindy does for a living? She works at a library. That's her daytime role. At night, she's a sex worker. What? A sex worker? Cindy, is that true? Listen carefully, Wayne. Your HIV came from Cindy. Cindy contracted HIV through her work as a sex worker. She kept silent about it and infected you. Do you understand? What? What is that? If you know that much, no point in hiding it. Yes, that's right. I thought if Wayne got HIV, Mrs. Bradley would divorce him. So, I had sex with him without telling him. That's. But now, HIV doesn't equal death, and I'm on medication too. And another thing, you're not pregnant, are you? What basis do you have to say that? You just wish that, don't you? You're just jealous because you couldn't get pregnant. So you're resorting to this sly tactic. One of my customers at my store is a friend of Cindy's. She spilled everything to me. I have emails exchanged between that friend and Cindy as evidence. Can you still be so confident? It turns out, a regular customer at my shop was the mother of Cindy's friend. Cindy's friend came to buy an engagement ring, saw my name, and realized I was the wife of the man Cindy was having an affair with. Out of pity for me and Wayne, the friend betrayed Cindy and showed me the evidence in the emails. Cindy's double life was so contrasting that her friend wanted to end their friendship. He's so indecisive, really gets on my nerves. But he doesn't interfere much and spends most of his time reading. So he's harmless. Now, I just have to sweet-talk him into marrying me and getting into the Bradley family. Mission accomplished. I gave him HIV as a means to that end. That way, his wife would surely leave him. Then it's just about how to marry him. Pretending to be pregnant seemed like the quickest way. What? I don't actually need to be pregnant. I can just say I had a miscarriage after we're married. Deceiving him is so easy. I want to settle down as a president's wife and live a life of leisure forever. I'll have the housekeeper do all the chores, while I enjoy my time at spas and nail salons. Marrying him means a lifetime of security. I can't believe I found such a great catch. He's so absent-minded, it was easy to manipulate him. He never doubts anything, never denies anything, just believes everything I say. At this rate, I might be able to deceive his wife and move into his house pretty soon. He's living on the top floor of a high-rise apartment, you know. And here I am, living in this tiny studio, such a world of difference. It'll be easy to bring his smug wife down a peg. What? The wedding? Oh, I'll definitely have a lavish one. Of course, I'll invite you. Look forward to it. Wayne's expression darkened rapidly. Even he, often oblivious, must have realized he was being used. So what? It's my right to use any means necessary to get what I want, isn't it? You were after Wayne's background from the start, right? Wait, so you're not pregnant? Not at the moment. Wayne, we can start trying now, right? I'm only 25. I can easily have 3, maybe 5 kids. Your company needs a male heir, right? So, it's useless going forward without one. I'm confident I can give birth to a healthy heir. We've been doing infertility treatment for 2 years, but we paused because of Wayne's HIV. They said it almost never affects the child, but it's not 100%. We thought of waiting to see how Wayne's treatment goes. Wayne, do you have anything to say? Cindy purposefully infected you with HIV, you know? I think it's a punishment for betraying Vanessa. I deserve it. I felt crushed under the pressure of having to produce an heir. After 5 years of marriage without a child, infertility was a possibility. So I went through IVF and ICSI, which were physically and mentally exhausting. The despair when implantation failed. And then, to top it all off, Wayne contracted HIV. Why do I have to bear all this alone? Vanessa, I'm so sorry. Really sorry. Wayne, from now on we can be together openly. We can hold hands outside, come home to the same house. No need to sneak around anymore. Vanessa can survive on her own, but I only have you, Wayne. You grew up in a wealthy family, Vanessa, never struggling for money, right? Then why choose a rich husband too? What's the logic? Is it about maintaining a lifestyle or similar values? What's the point of such a marriage? You don't cook, let housekeepers do all the work, easy life. And you, Vanessa, seem so condescending. Sure, you're a celeb in terms of lifestyle. Do you realize there is a feeling of disrespect for prostitutes in yourself? I don't discriminate based on occupation, but being a sex worker led to HIV. Would you honestly be happy if your daughter said she's becoming a sex worker? Can you proudly announce it to friends and relatives? You can say that because you're rich. Is it so wrong for those who have nothing to depend on those who have a lot? At least, you lied and deceived, didn't you? Even after reading such shocking emails, is Wayne still choosing Cindy? Can I say the final word then? That wasn't the only email your friend leaked. Shall I show it here? Cindy looked visibly nervous, clearly not wanting that content exposed. I might be in trouble, you know. I have HIV. I might have infected a client and his wife, and they might sue me. The husband doesn't want to sleep with his wife enough to use a prostitute. But the minute he gets HIV, even his wife has to butt in. Isn't that pathetic? What? Court? I'm not scared at all. The client knew the risks too. Doesn't the wife feel embarrassed? Her husband got HIV from a sex worker. That's so typical of older women. Is Cindy treating her HIV properly? She seems to be recklessly involving others while being in denial about her condition. So, Vanessa, what did you come here for? To show emails between me and my friend? How lame, attacking the mistress's home with such a weak weapon. Ah, right. That was the main reason I came today. Then this. I handed the divorce papers to Wayne. All that's left is for your signature, Wayne. Sign it now, and I'm going to the city hall to file the divorce papers. This is what you and Cindy wanted, right? But I will be asking for compensation from both you and Cindy, just so you know. Wait, Vanessa, wait. Stop talking about divorce and compensation, please. Huh? A man who succumbs to his desires, creates a mistress, and then gets HIV from her. Who would want to stay with such a man for a lifetime? When you were diagnosed with HIV, Wayne, I thought you would come clean with the truth. It was obviously contracted from sexual activities with another woman. But you didn't mention a word about it. I didn't ask directly, but I was waiting for you to be honest. If you had confessed back then, I wouldn't have thought about divorce. But now, it's too much. I've reached my limit. Kind lies are not kind. It's different. I was tricked at first. We started going out for meals, and one night, we went for drinks. I got so drunk that I blacked out. When I woke up, I was in a hotel bed with Cindy beside me. I panicked because I really couldn't remember anything. Then Cindy started crying. I didn't know what to do. But she said she'd take a morning after pill, so I felt relieved. Then she told me she was pregnant. I was happy. I wanted a child too. But thinking about ending things with you, Vanessa, I didn't know what to do. I was confused and just went along with Cindy. Must have been hard. Going back and forth between your main house and your love nest. I'll gladly hand you over to Cindy. Have a long and happy life together. Vanessa, let's talk properly. You're too emotional right now to make a calm decision. Let's cool down before discussing this. Divorce isn't the best option. Wait, Wayne, what do you mean? Your wife is agreeing to divorce, so let's just settle it. I'm perfectly calm. No matter what twists and turns happen. I have no intention of getting back with you, Wayne. Wonder how much this will cost Bradley Corporation. I forcefully made Wayne sign the divorce papers and headed straight to the city hall to file them. Cindy is truly a terrifying woman. Wayne's one mistake, and a forgotten one at that, led to him contracting HIV and being told of a pregnancy. The honest Wayne would naturally choose to take responsibility. But his inability to openly admit it to me might have been due to fear more than honesty. Wayne apparently confessed everything to his parents and relatives. But this incident caused more than just a laugh. It became serious since my mother had introduced customers to Bradley Corporation. My mother, understandably, couldn't forgive what happened to me and made a big deal about it. As a result, Bradley Corporation started receiving cancellation notices from clients. Wayne was fired from the company and cut off from the family. After this incident, the company's management policy changed to no longer focus solely on male successors, but also on empowering women. Wayne, left with nothing, moved into Cindy's tiny studio apartment. But to Cindy, Wayne without money was now useless. Cindy, are you still working in the sex industry? I can't because of HIV. Now I work at a men's spa. Did you quit the library? Ugh, annoying. Being with you is so boring. I don't need a life of licking each other's wounds with HIV. I have no attachment to you now that you're broke and jobless. Get out. Wayne wandered aimlessly, reportedly becoming homeless. Despite her bravado, Cindy was also struggling with the terror of living with HIV. I returned to my family home, aspiring to become a jewelry designer under my mother's guidance. I had pursued this dream in college, but gave it up. Now, I'd started chasing that dream again. Upon discovering that Tom was cheating on me, just as I was about to gather evidence, Susan moved into our house. I'm moving in with my lover, so get out. We'll be paying the mortgage. I don't really care. But you know, the mortgage is expensive, right? You don't get it, do you? My annual income has increased compared to a few years ago. I can easily pay off the mortgage. Oh, is that so? Then I guess it's fine. You should respect me more. It's because I married you that you've been able to live leisurely in such a stylish house every day. Yet, you give me orders and talk back all the time. Tom pointed at me. I don't need you anymore. Don't ever show your face again. I sighed and muttered quietly. Then I'll leave, though the mortgage is $4,000 a month. While I was working hard without enough sleep, you were infatuated with a young lover. You'll pay for betraying me. My name is Linda, a 47-year-old housewife. It's been 10 years since I married Tom. After graduating from university, I was working as an office worker at a small company. But I decided to pursue my dream. I studied web design and then switched jobs to the company where Tom works. Tom, capable yet friendly, was adored by his bosses and juniors. I also had feelings for him, and after he asked me out over a meal, we started dating. Before I knew it, I was over 35, immersed in my work. I had given up on marriage, so I was thrilled to be dating Tom. We agreed on not having children and shared the same values, so we got married. Upon marriage, I became a freelancer and started working from home. I remember being very grateful for the support I received from Tom, such as introducing me to his clients. When my business was on track, at Tom's request, we bought land near a station and had a major construction company build a house. Though I was a bit anxious about the high monthly mortgage, Tom insisted on building his dream house. And the salesperson from the housing company persuaded us to make a hasty decision. Once completed, the house was comfortable and cozy, and the days with Tom were peaceful. However, after a few years, Tom showed his true self. Tom is careless with money. For example, when we go shopping together, he keeps throwing in what he wants into the shopping basket and makes me pay for everything. Oh, domestic beef is on sale. Linda, grill it later. Tonight's dinner is braised yellowtail and root vegetable stew. We can have that tomorrow. Oh, and sushi is on discount too. Let's also buy some premium whiskey and sweet potato shochu. And so on. Since I manage our budget to stay within a set limit, going over budget was a problem. It's okay, occasionally, but every time I say I'm going to the supermarket, he insists on coming along. When this happens every weekend, it results in more than $100 in extra expenses. Tom, you should pay for what you buy. When I asked him to do so, he threw the money on the desk along with the receipt. Here you go. You're such a miser. You earn a decent amount too, so you could at least pay for this much. Indeed, I earn a fair amount because I work full-time. Still, it's frustrating to be spoken to like this. Linda, as a housewife, you should manage these things better. That's part of your job, right? He sighed deeply and lectured me. $500 a month for pocket money is too little. I need more. I get less than half of that. When I objected, Tom looked annoyed. Unlike you, who works from home, I have social obligations at work. I even treat my subordinates. Even $1,000 isn't enough. Unable to bear it any longer, I showed him the household budget on a computer app, and he reluctantly agreed. Fine. You agree? Yeah, basically, I just need to earn more. What? Tom crossed his arms and nodded. Think about it. It's strange for a husband to earn less than his wife. If I earn more than you, you won't be able to act defiantly towards me. I was dumbfounded. Are you going to be busier than now? You hardly do any housework as it is. You should do it. You're at home all day since you work from home. I was speechless at Tom's arrogant remarks. Even though I'm at home, I have a schedule and work to do. It's not like I'm playing around. Understood. If you're unhappy with your allowance, Let's keep our finances separate from now on. Tom looked intrigued by my suggestion. What are you saying? We'll each transfer a fixed amount from our salaries into a joint account for savings. The rest will be used to cover living expenses, the house mortgage, and taxes according to our income. So, I get to decide how much allowance I have. Sounds good. Tom agreed to the amount and items I suggested. Since that day, Tom never complained about his allowance again. Eventually, he stopped accompanying me on my shopping trips, and the issue of going over the food budget was resolved. Another troublesome presence was my mother-in-law. Since my father-in-law passed away 10 years ago, Tom, an only son, has been looking after his mother. I was anxious about the possibility of her moving in with us when we got married, but fortunately, that didn't happen. According to Tom, his mother enjoys living alone. However, she often calls Tom over for trivial things. Tom, I need you to change the light bulb in the bathroom. My computer froze. Can you come over? A bee got into the house. Help me. Would you help me choose a birthday present for a friend? She's kind to me and never visits unannounced. Instead, she's very attached to Tom. Moreover, Tom has promised to spend Mother's Day and her birthday with her every year. I send him off silently every year, thinking to myself that he's a severe mama's boy. But I can see getting angry would be pointless. I could tolerate that, but the troublesome part is him comparing me to his mother. Lately, he comes home late on weekdays, sometimes after midnight. On weekends, he either goes out for work-related socializing or lies on the sofa playing with his phone. Before we got married, he promised to share household chores. But now he uses work as an excuse and doesn't help at all on his days off. He finally gets up, lured by the smell of food, but then he only complains. I hate miso soup. Why do you serve it every morning? I feel like a caterpillar when I see leafy vegetables. It's disgusting. The potato salad is dry and tastes bad. I was in the mood for something with a soy sauce taste tonight. Why did you make salted fried chicken? Stew? Oh, so it's a lazy meal? And then, he always ends with this. My mom used to put more effort into making delicious meals. Besides the main dish, I want at least 3. I'm not a housekeeper. I am also working. Tom spoke in a high-handed manner, which irritated me. Recently, Tom's demands have increased. I'll be sending money to my mom with my bonus, so take care of it. He said it so casually that I was taken aback. Is your mother financially struggling? She says she doesn't have enough money to go on trips or to the theater with her friends every month. So, I've decided to help her out. I remembered that his mother enjoyed traveling. She's a pensioner and a housewife, so I thought she should cut back a bit. So, Linda, please handle more work. Huh? If you work more than before, you can cover my bonus portion. There should be no problem. I was furious with Tom's proud attitude. Why should I work harder for your mother to have fun? I almost blurted out, but swallowed my words. Increasing it further is tough. Even now, I'm cutting back on sleep to meet deadlines. That's usual. I do overtime too. We don't have kids, so you have it easier. Don't complain. But Tom, you only work, right? I do the housework too. Ah, got it. Then, let's bring my mom here. If she lives with us, we won't need to increase the living expenses. Tom yelled this in a resigned tone, and I bit my lip. Okay. I'll increase my workload to cover the bonus. As long as you understand. Thanks. Tom smirked, and my irritation grew. Here's the lunchbox. Wash it. As Tom was about to go upstairs, He suddenly remembered and handed me the bag from his bag. I hesitantly opened the bag and sighed. Again. Today, too, a cute pink memo was inside the lunch bag. Thank you for always making the loving wife's lunchbox. Today's score is 80. Tom said the fried chicken was too chewy. The omelette should be sweeter, that's Tom's preference. Gratin, was it leftovers from dinner? You should put in more effort. When I confronted Tom about whose doing it was, he gave a flustered response. That's from a female subordinate. She's concerned about my health and gives me various tips. Then why don't you have her make it from now on? Don't be stupid. Making lunch is a wife's job. Tom pouted his lips. You're quite flustered. Are you cheating with her? Huh? Jealous at your age? It's shameful for an old lady. He yelled at me. Since we're on the subject, let me say this, Linda, you're always nagging. I didn't ask for you to take care of me so much. Leave me alone a bit more. If I leave you alone, you'd neglect yourself. Please take a bath quickly. I know, so annoying. Tom muttered irritably and headed to his room. Since pointing out the affair, Tom's attitude has visibly cooled. The harsh words Tom said to me lingered in my ears, and sometimes, before sleeping, they come back at me and I would wet my pillow with tears. Wanting my husband to be well-groomed is only natural for a wife. And then, the misery of having the lunchbox I carefully prepared considering the color and nutritional balance judged condescendingly by someone else. Tom, who doesn't cook, probably wouldn't understand. After some time, I received a message from Tom, who had gone on a business trip. Finally freed from the nagging. Let's finish up the work quickly and have some fun. Looking forward to getting into the open-air hot spring with you. Love you. I stood frozen, clutching my phone for a while. It was clear. He was cheating. The other woman was probably the one who left notes in the lunchbox. My love for Tom had completely cooled, but I was boiling with resentment for being betrayed. When Tom returned home, I confronted him with the screen of my phone, and he admitted it easily. I'm sick of a caretaker-type woman like you. Give me some freedom, will you? I was stunned by Tom, who was visibly angry. Despite his infidelity, it sounded as if I was the one at fault. Days of not speaking to each other passed. And then one weekend afternoon, while I was reading a book, the doorbell rang. Through the intercom, the moving company spoke. Hello. We'll be moving your belongings now. Eh? As I stood there dumbfounded, Tom hurried down the stairs and pushed past me to respond. Thank you, please do. Ignoring my bewildered state, the movers laid down blue protective sheets and started bringing in a white dresser and cardboard boxes. Tom, sorry, I overslept and got late. With a sweet voice, a young woman showed her face at the entrance. Hearing her, Tom rushed over and greeted her with a smile. Good morning, Susan. You're looking cute as always. Susan. Ah, the one Tom was texting. The two of them didn't even try to hide their relationship in front of me anymore, intertwining their arms and flirting. You look cool too, Tom. Oh, please take that to the bedroom upstairs. Susan, having barged into the house, directed the movers to bring all the items from the truck inside. After the move was complete, Tom came to me hand in hand with Susan. What is all this? Tom smirked at my anger. You still don't get it? This is why I can't stand dumb people. We should be clear. After a sigh, Tom faced me and declared, followed by Susan. I'm moving in with my lover, so get out. We'll be paying the mortgage. I blinked, looking at the boxes being brought in. I had a vague idea of what they were planning. So, they really intended to kick me out. I don't mind. But you know, the mortgage is quite expensive, right? You don't get it, do you? My annual income has increased compared to a few years ago. I can easily pay off the mortgage. Oh, is that so? Then I guess it's fine. First of all, the only reason you could go independent is because of me. I introduced you to several clients, which barely kept you afloat. Otherwise, you would have failed long ago. I am grateful for that, to an extent. I stated flatly. But the continuous work I receive is thanks to my own skills. Tom pompously continued in a haughty tone. Basically, you should respect me more. It's because I married you that you've been able to live leisurely in such a stylish house every day. Yet, you dare to instruct me and talk back all the time. Tom pointed his finger at me. I don't need someone like you anymore. Don't show your face again. I shrugged my shoulders. Then I'll leave, though the mortgage is $4,000 a month. While packing essentials into a trunk, I was so angry I felt like screaming. While I diligently took care of the housework and worked tirelessly, sparing no time for sleep, you were infatuated with a young mistress. You will fully receive the retribution for betraying me. I went straight to a real estate agent to transfer the deed of the land and house into Tom's name. After renting an apartment, I returned to the house while Susan and Tom were at work, packed my belongings, and had them moved to my room by movers. When I spoke to Lily about the situation, she looked as if she had bitten into a sour bug. When building the house, your income was higher than Tom's, right? It was put in your name because the mortgage wouldn't have been approved otherwise. Yeah. Tom doesn't seem to understand that passing the mortgage assessment as a freelancer means having a stable income and a good reputation. Exactly. Anyone would realize how highly regarded you are in the industry with a little research. Lily expressed her disbelief while sipping tea. Is Tom's salary higher than yours now? Who knows? But even if it is, he gives away money as soon as his mother asks. I think $4,000 a month will be tough, I explained to Lily. When we built the house, we included so many luxury features that the loan amount skyrocketed. Your house looked like a celebrity's home on TV. I was shocked when I heard the loan amount. Lily laughed, shaking her shoulders. Since it's deducted from your account, maybe he forgot how much is being paid monthly. I think so. He's always been careless with money. While eating cake, I continued. What will he do if he can't pay the mortgage after it's in his name? Will it be auctioned off? Yes. Unfortunately, but there's nothing to be done about it. Lily looked disappointed. Tom is competent at work, right? I mean, he's a client of our company. Not only is he adored by female employees, but his bosses and male juniors clearly respect him too. He was kind when we were dating. He supported my work too. As I rested my cheek on my hand, Lily frowned. Are you going to discuss divorce proceedings now? Yes. I'll hire a lawyer and start negotiations for alimony. I also need to investigate her background. The saleswoman, Susanito? I saw her before. She seemed shrewd. Be careful. Yeah, thank you. After enjoying the chat with Lily, I returned to my apartment. A week later, as I looked at the photos of Susan provided by the detective agency, I received a call from an unfamiliar number. Curious, I answered, and it was Susan. Hey. Do something about Tom. What? He tries to go to work with his hair all messy from sleep, doesn't shave, and even finds washing his face too bothersome. What's with that? I chuckled softly. That's the real Tom. What? Unless you constantly nag him, he won't do anything. On the other end of the phone, Susan fell silent. After a moment, she muttered to herself, "He even resists taking showers and brushing his teeth. I figured as much. That's why he found me annoying when I nagged about it." I explained in detail to Susan. The reason Tom always seemed fresh was because I ironed his shirts and handkerchiefs and provided him with care products for breath freshness. It was all part of looking after his appearance. Do you really have to spell out such things to an adult? Disbelief tinged Susan's voice. Yes. If you don't like it, why not break up? Humph, I won't fall for that trick. A handsome, high-earning man with a house and a yard is a catch. I'll change, Tom, just watch. Good luck with that. Oh, I'm coming over tomorrow. I have something to discuss with both Tom and you, Susan. Eh? You're not welcome. You want me to divorce him, right? It's about that discussion. Fine. Though reluctant, Susan agreed. When I visited the house, Tom showed his displeasure openly. I'm busy. Let's make this quick. I glanced at the wall calendar and nodded. Today's your birthday, isn't it, Tom? That's right. It's an important day. So once your business is done, please leave quickly. I shifted my gaze from Susan to Tom. Oh, haven't you told her yet? Told me what? Tom looked uncomfortable. I was going to tell her later. Susan looked back and forth between me and Tom. I smiled brightly. You're going out to eat together, right? You've made reservations. Yes, at the Italian place in front of the station. The usual old-fashioned Japanese restaurant? My interruption irritated Susan. Can you just be quiet for a second? It's your mother-in-law's favorite place, right? Susan looked puzzled. Mother-in-law? Apparently, Tom hadn't told her. Suppressing a laugh, I spilled the beans to Susan. Every year on his birthday, Tom has dinner with his mother. He cancels all other plans for that day and spends the night with her until the next morning. Susan's mouth dropped open in shock. And it's the same for his mother's birthday, Mother's Day, and Christmas. Susan, you must have noticed, right? As I spoke, I laid out photos on the dining table. Susan grimaced greatly upon seeing the photos. Unbelievable. Don't make that face. Birthdays are to thank my mother for giving birth to me. Tom blushed as he retorted. The photos showed Tom walking closely and smiling with his mother. Tom glared at Susan, speaking harshly. Each of these days is a cherished memory for me and my mom. Valuing one's parents is a good thing, isn't it? I shouldn't be criticized for it. I get that, but shopping arm in arm, taking cheek-to-cheek photos, and having candlelit romantic dinners with your mother is a bit much, don't you think? Susan looked down at the photos, her voice rising in a scream-like pitch. Seeing Tom's mother, who looked young for her age, made the scenes look more like dates with an older woman rather than mother and son outings. What's wrong with dating my mom? After Dad passed away, she's been lonely and wants me around. I've got to make her happy as much as I can. Oh, he actually said dating. I had to suppress a laugh. So, it's always been like this? Getting stood up for mother's priorities even after booking nice restaurants. For Tom's birthday or Christmas? Susan appealed to Tom with teary eyes. And all those times you canceled our dates for work. It was actually to do errands for your mom or prioritize something for her? Yeah, that's right. Tom admitted it easily. Wah. Who's more important to you, me or your mother? My mom, of course. He said it coldly. What? I thought you were cool, competent, kind, and wonderful. But you're actually a mama's boy and sloppy. What a disappointment. Then why don't you break up? I don't need him anymore either. I teased Susan with a chuckle as she drooped her shoulders. Oh, and he gives his mom $5,000 from his bonus. Apart from gifts for anniversaries. Susan's eyes widened in shock. Huh? He gives her $10,000 a year? Yeah. Huh? That's ridiculous. There's going to be less for me. What? Susan hastily covered her mouth, looking pale. I took this opportunity to lay out photos of Susan from a large envelope on the table. Susan, you know I hate gambling, right? Investigations had shown Susan frequently visited gambling venues on her days off. As Tom looked through the photos, his expression changed dramatically. Slots, horse racing, boat racing? You're doing every kind of gambling. So what? It's my way of relieving stress. I don't mean to meddle in personal fun, but indulging to the point of debt isn't advisable. Susan's cheeks tensed up at my words. Why do you even know about that? You begged Tom to buy those brand items, then sold them on flea markets to pay off debts, right? Come to think of it, you do lose the bags and accessories I buy you quite often. Don't tell me you've actually been selling them? Susan sweated profusely as I gave a wry smile. Ah, so it was true. My friend Lily overheard your coworkers talking. Susan has been selling brand items her boyfriend spoils her with to pay off debts. You shouldn't share such things with colleagues. It spreads through the office like wildfire. Susan glared at me resentfully, and I offered her a piece of advice. Thought I found a good cash cow. Mama's boy, I'm better off without you. I'm cute. I can find someone else in no time. I'll find another man right away. Susan grabbed her jacket and bag, storming out of the house in a huff. Susan. I'll be sending the alimony bill later. Make sure you pay it. I called out to her retreating back. Though reluctantly, Tom quietly agreed to the divorce. When I demanded alimony through a lawyer, it was transferred in full to my account. Several months passed. Having developed a few new clients and increased my savings, I was considering purchasing a condo when I received a call from Tom. What's this about a monthly mortgage of $4,000? How am I supposed to pay this? Tom was crying over the phone. I had been expecting his call around this time, when we decided on the monthly payments. You were right there beside me, listening to the conversation, weren't you? I don't know anything about that. Don't remember? At both our house and the bank. Didn't they stress the amount so much? You were the one responding, so I wasn't listening. And why is it so high anyway? Is this some kind of ripoff? Suppressing my irritation, I patiently explained. I tried to keep it around $1,000 a month. But you, Tom, you kept asking the house builder for more lavish features. What? It's a once-in-a-lifetime home. Shouldn't I communicate all my wishes to avoid regrets? Tom boasted. You only came up with mundane stuff like a pantry or a sunroom. I was the one who added all the unique and luxurious elements. You should be more grateful to me for making our home so special. Feeling my face twitch in annoyance, I continued the conversation. Wanting a rooftop, a soundproof room for guitar practice, a study next to my room, all custom-made interior, and insisting on a location 5 minutes walk from the station, on a southwest corner lot with a parking space for 4 cars. Of course, commissioning a top-tier house builder for such a detailed and unique home, including the cost of land, would result in a mortgage of several $1,000s a month. Well, yeah, but you could afford it at the time, so there was no problem, right? Tom replied nonchalantly. And? You're saying you can't afford the $4,000 mortgage with your current income? The momentum he had was gone, and Tom fell silent. If you come back and help with living expenses, I could afford it without any problem. I couldn't believe my ears. Actually, my mom suggested we live together. Tom stammered as he spoke. You know, after breaking up with Susan, I let her take the furniture, right? When I mentioned having extra rooms since I'm living alone, my mom said she wanted to move in with me. Her house is getting old, so it seemed like a good idea. So, I agreed. That's nice of you. But if I can't pay the mortgage, it'll be auctioned off, right? Even if we sell the house, the mortgage will still be there. How am I supposed to tell this to Mom? Just tell her the truth. How about renovating the in-laws' house and living there together? But you don't have the money for renovation, do you? That's impossible. Tom quickly countered. To my mom, I'm a proud son. But now, the truth that my wife had a higher income and was paying the mortgage. That we're getting divorced because of my affair. And soon we won't have a house to live in. How embarrassing is that? You want to shame me? But that's the truth. That's why you should come back, Tom declared haughtily. Just because I had an affair or two over 3 years. You make such a big deal out of it. Every man has a mistress or two. It's not like I got anyone pregnant. Let bygones be bygones. I was speechless with disbelief. I refuse. I'm thinking of moving into a high-rise condo. I have no intention of returning to that house. A high-rise condo? How can a mere freelance web designer afford that? Who's the one earning less than a mere freelance web designer? Don't contact me again. From now on, communicate through a lawyer. I firmly stated, hung up the phone, and blocked Tom's contact. The stay-at-home mother-in-law also depends on the $10,000 from Tom and her pension. Paying that house's mortgage would be impossible for them. I thought that was the end of it, but the next day, I got a call from my mother-in-law. Linda, please help Tom. Before I could speak, the mother-in-law pleaded in a pitiful tone. We're family, aren't we? You're earning decently, aren't you? Please pay off the house's mortgage. I suppressed my rising disgust and spoke in a low voice. We're divorced now, so we're strangers. How cold. After all Tom has done for you, that's just unacceptable. The one who cheated and kicked me out of the house was Tom. And I was the one paying the mortgage. Stop making a fuss over a mere affair. It's disgraceful. As if to say what a troublesome person, the mother-in-law continued. You don't have to live together. I will move in. I don't want to live with you anyway. I'm just asking for you to pay the mortgage. I'm begging you, so just comply quietly. Like a mother, like a son. I truly understood that now. The person living in the house should be the one to pay. I refuse. Fine, you miser. That's why Tom cheated on you. With your unattractive personality. Leaving those parting words, the mother-in-law hung up. Of course, I blocked the mother-in-law immediately. Sometime later, Lily told me an unbelievable story. Apparently, Susan was caught trying to take money from the company's safe by security guards and got arrested. After breaking up with Tom, her gambling debts spiraled out of control, leading her to desperation. Susan looked completely haggard in the online news, all traces of her beauty gone. As expected, Tom failed the mortgage application, and the house was auctioned off. Though it sold, Tom was left with the remaining mortgage, living in his parents' house while continuing to make payments. Furthermore, Susan claimed to the police that Tom coerced me into stealing the money, so Tom was also questioned. Since Susan's statement was a complete lie, Tom was quickly released, but their relationship was known to all employees, causing Tom to lose his credibility instantly. Being uncomfortable at the company alongside Susan, who received probation, Tom was forced to resign voluntarily. Later, Tom struggled with multiple part-time jobs to make the mortgage payments. Despite seeing his hardships, his mother continued to spend his earnings lavishly. Even though Tom tried to convince her, his mother wouldn't listen, often leading to neighbor disturbing parental arguments. Having moved to the high-rise condo I always dreamed of, I started living comfortably alone. Unlike the previous house filled with Tom's wishes, I chose a place that suited my own tastes this time. Work is busy but fulfilling. The modest happiness of spending my earnings solely on myself is something I cherish. Still feeling I have much to learn, I plan to continue honing my skills and enhancing my design abilities. My name is Mandy. Currently, I live with my husband, Ryan. I thought we could live comfortably together since we don't have any children. But it seems that intruders always find their way into married life. When I returned home from work as usual, Ryan, who seemed to have come home earlier, was cleaning the room. "How rare," I said, "for you to take the initiative to clean." Ryan, a bit sheepishly, responded, "I've been feeling guilty about leaving all the housework to you, Mandy. I'll take care of cleaning from now on." Despite both of us working, Ryan had always said he couldn't do housework and had left it all to me. I've confronted him about this several times, but my words never seemed to change him. However, feeling a sense of discomfort about his sudden offer to start cleaning, I decided to view it as a welcome change. Thinking this, I decided to do the laundry, but when I checked the washing machine, Ryan's shirts, which are usually there after work, were missing. He always wears suits to work, and since it's the summer, they should have been in the washing machine if he wore them. "Hey, Ryan. Were you off today by any chance?" "Huh? Oh, yeah, but what about it? The day off when it's not a holiday? That's unusual. Did you take a paid leave?" "Don't be silly. Why would I apply for paid leave on a day like this?" Today was, the company's founding anniversary. That's why I had the day off. I just brushed off his explanation with a, I've never heard of his company giving a day off for the founding anniversary in all the time we've lived together. While he was in the bath, I checked his company's website and found that the founding anniversary was not today, but 6 months later. It was clear Ryan had lied about taking the day off. However, I couldn't understand why he lied to me. I was left feeling uneasy. "Mandy, what's wrong? Have you been bothered by something recently?" My unease must have shown on my face because Anna, who works at the desk next to mine, asked me about it. Thinking I still have much to learn if my attitude gave me away, I vaguely responded, "Well, there's been something on my mind lately." Upon hearing this, Anna exclaimed, "Ah, could it be something to do with your husband? How did you know?" "Well, if someone as competent as Mandy is troubled, it must be something at home, right? I figured it must be your husband since you don't have children." Surprised by Anna's detective-like deduction, I told her about the recent events. My husband suddenly taking on cleaning duties, him taking a day off from work without telling me, and him lying about the company's founding anniversary. After hearing this, Anna pondered and said, Maybe your husband wanted to surprise you." "A surprise?" "You know, like going shopping on his day off to buy a present for you. He must have lied about the founding anniversary because he didn't want you to find out." "It should be. Could Ryan really do something like that? Having lived together for so long, such occurrences have been very rare. Anna, excitedly imagining the best about Ryan, said, "If your husband is preparing surprises, he must be such a nice guy. I'd want a husband like that." Feeling reluctant to crush Anna's dreams by telling her that's not the kind of person Ryan is, I decided not to say anything. Anna is still in her late 20s and seems to be dreaming about marriage. I couldn't bear to shatter those dreams, so I just went along with her for the day. However, despite pretending to agree with Anna, Ryan's suspicious behavior only increased. He began coming home before me more often, either cleaning or having finished cleaning by the time I returned. And he started taking more days off than he could excuse as company founding anniversaries. Eventually, I confronted him about it. "Today is not the founding anniversary, right? So why are you off today? Did you take a day off?" No, that's not it. Today is a company-wide cleaning day, so all employees are off." The lies were so blatant, I couldn't understand why he kept lying. I would have been fine if he just wanted to take a day off to relax. But lying about it only made me distrustful. So, I frowned and said, "Enough with the lies. How long do you think we've been married? I can see through your lies easily." Instead of apologizing, Ryan glared at me. "What? You don't believe what your husband says?" He came at me with something that made no sense, saying, "I'm the husband here. I'm a man. Isn't it a wife's duty to believe her husband's side of the story?" Even when he had left all household chores to me, claiming incompetence, he had never adopted such an arrogant tone. As I was shocked by his sudden change, he said, "I can't go on with someone who doesn't know how to respect a man like you." And then he suddenly stormed out of the house. What could have possibly prompted such a drastic change in him? It was beyond my comprehension. Yet, I harbored hope that, given our years of companionship as a couple, Ryan would soon cool off and return home. After all, we were both entering our 40s. Abandoning our household now seemed unthinkable. Contrary to my expectations, however, Ryan returned a week later, bringing a woman to our home. The sound of keys jostling at the entrance on an off day hurried me to the front door. Only Ryan and I had keys to our home, and no spare had been given out. My initial joy at thinking Ryan had returned was shattered when, upon opening the door, I was greeted not by Ryan's voice, but by that of a woman. It's my first time entering Ryan's house, where his wife lives. I wonder if I'll be harassed by a jealous wife. Her voice was familiar, yet Ryan responded with a sweetness I had never heard before, assuring, "Don't worry. If that happens, I'll protect you even if it costs me my life." Yay! I'm so happy. "I love you, Ryan." Just their exchange alone was enough to make me feel nauseous. I wanted to rush to the bathroom and throw up immediately. However, before I could do that, I accidentally made eye contact with Ryan, who had just entered through the door. There was no one beside him. It seemed the woman Ryan was talking to must be waiting outside. Ryan glared at me as if I were an enemy. Despite being his wife, the conversation suggested that the woman outside likely was now more significant to him. In fact, it seemed she had become more important to him than I ever was. "I'm divorcing you." While saying this, he shoved the divorce papers he had signed at me. I, too, have no confidence in continuing as a couple with him, who regards me as an enemy. After seeing him lie to me and then angrily storm out of the house before, my patience had run out. I hesitated for a moment, but eventually signed the divorce papers and handed them back to him. He looked satisfied with the divorce papers and said, "I'll leave the house to you," before leaving. His belongings are still in the house. I wonder if that's okay. I sighed and decided to pack his things and send them to his parents' house. Keeping them would only be a hassle. I can't imagine living alone in the house we built to live together as a couple. I decided to sell the house and start over. A week later, while I was organizing the house to send his belongings, I received a frantic call from his parents. I wasn't very close to his family, but I did visit them for Christmas and other holidays. And we had a decent relationship. His mother immediately asked on the phone, "Mandy, what's going on? Can you explain?" I was confused and didn't understand what she meant. She explained that Ryan had brought a woman home that morning and announced, "I got remarried today." Divorced from me and remarried in just a week? I was astounded. I sensed there was a woman behind him, but I never thought he would act so rashly. I told his mother about how he suddenly presented me with divorce papers a week ago. She was naturally shocked, as she thought we were a happily married couple. Until recently, I had thought we would spend a happy retirement together. So this incident came as a shock to me. However, there were more surprising events to come. Incredibly, after my mother-in-law, this time it was Ryan himself who called me. "Where's my stuff? I was planning to send it to your parents' house." "Believe it. I'll come and get it." "You're off tomorrow, right?" "I'll bring my new wife to show you. She's from a far superior family and wealth compared to you." "I don't really need to see her. You should see my wife so you can understand why you lost." "I don't want you clinging to me forever." I didn't want to cling to him. I was already over it and was just sorting his stuff. Perhaps he thinks, since I dumped her, she must be clinging to me. I can't comprehend his thinking. Anyway, I decided to wait until the next day. When Ryan arrived with a woman, I burst into laughter upon seeing her. It was Anna, my junior at work. I remembered thinking her voice sounded familiar, but I never imagined she was Ryan's affair partner. When I was feeling troubled, Anna quickly realized it was about my husband. Perhaps she wasn't deducing, but knew because she was involved with him. That would mean she was enjoying the situation, pretending to guess about a surprise. There's a limit to how bad someone's character can be. But what a ridiculous situation. Ryan had bragged about his superior wife, and it turned out to be Anna. Seeing me doubled over with laughter, Ryan and Anna looked completely confused. Anna even looked at me as if she was seeing something creepy. "Hey, Ryan, what's gotten into Mandy? Has she gone mad from the shock of being dumped?" I don't know. Mandy, what's gotten into you? Why are you laughing like that?" Wiping away tears of laughter, I managed to compose myself enough to speak. "It's just ridiculous. Ryan, you said you were bringing home the best wife, and it turns out to be Anna. That's just too absurd." Feeling mocked, Ryan and Anna scowled and glared at me. "What are you talking about? Anna is the best wife. She's younger, and comes from a good family with assets." "What?" Anna was the one surprised by his words. Seeing Anna's reaction, Ryan tilted his head, puzzled. Surely, they must be misunderstanding each other. Ryan, misunderstanding the situation entirely, believed Anna belonged to a wealthy and influential family. I knew Anna well, and was aware that she came from a typical family without notable wealth. How could anyone think to describe her as the best wife in terms of family background and wealth? Where did you get such an idea? Anna comes from an ordinary family. Huh? What are you talking about? Anna's last name is Irving, right? Isn't that the last name of the president of the company you work for? That means she's the CEO's daughter, and marrying her would make me the next CEO, right?" Mandy and Anna exchanged looks. While it was true their company's CEO shared Anna's surname, it didn't mean Anna was related to him. Attempting to clarify the misunderstanding, Mandy explained. "Anna is from a regular family. Her father isn't a CEO, they just have the same last name." They're not relatives. What? That's like fraud. Ryan seemed oblivious to how foolish he sounded. Frustrated, he let go of Anna, who was clinging to his arm, and sighed dramatically. This is what you call marriage fraud, isn't it? I quit my job thinking I'd become the next company president. Anna raised her voice in shock. What? You quit your job? I only considered marrying you because you said you worked at a major IT company. You bragged about your money. And I thought I'd get to see the frustrated face of a pompous senior. Both were equally to blame. It appeared that both Ryan and Anna had engaged in an affair with each other, motivated by the other's supposed wealth, and even proceeded towards marriage. Perhaps they had already registered their marriage. If so, that's too bad. You were after my money? What a terrible woman. How dare you rely on someone else's assets and home only to marry me? If you knew from the start you couldn't become the next president, you wouldn't have dated me. Of course not. Who would date someone like you? Their ugly argument could have gone on indefinitely. I told them enough. Ryan, take your stuff back to your parents. I plan to sue both of you for the affair, so make sure you have the money ready. Anna pleaded, I'll break up with this guy immediately. So please spare me the compensation claim. Ryan, on his part, said, I'll also break up with her, so no need for compensation. You must have been in pain too, right? Let's just go back to being husband and wife. It'll be like nothing ever happened. I won't even need to move my stuff, right? I instinctively locked the door and engaged the chain lock. I don't care why you cheated, but the fact you did can't be erased. And I don't have the slightest intention of getting back together with you. Leave now, or I'll call the police. I warned them. Reluctantly, Ryan and Anna left, hurling insults at each other as they went. I followed through with my initial plan, sending Ryan's belongings to his parents' house and moving out of the house we shared. Ryan, unaware of my move, was reported by a neighbor for knocking on the door of our old house. Later, both attempted to sue each other for marriage fraud, but found no one willing to take their case seriously. Eventually, they parted ways on bad terms. But the claim for compensation for the affair from me remained. Thankfully, their responsible parents settled the compensation in full. They promised never to approach me again. To repay their parents, both ended up working day and night. Anna, perhaps uncomfortable working with me or because she bragged about the affair, which was reported to management, left the company. I was relieved she was gone, as continuing to work in the same company was undesirable for me. Now, I look forward to enjoying my life to the fullest, embracing my newfound single living. My mistress is pregnant. I'm going to live with her from now on. After a decade of marriage and figuring out the parenting game, I can finally get back to working full time. Just when things seemed to be getting on track, my husband Daniel returned home early from work one day and abruptly told me he cheated on me with his mistress and wanted a divorce. He hardly ever pitched in with parenting or household tasks while we were married. I just let it slide because he was always focused on his career. But I had been sensing something was off with him lately, and now everything made sense. You old hag, take the kids and get out of this house, will you? I thought to myself, this guy doesn't get it at all, but what else is new? I accepted what he said with a smile and told him. Then, you're fired. My husband, who had never been called out by me like this before, looked utterly confused. He didn't realize yet that he was about to lose everything. My name is Tracy Morgan, 42 years old. I was a workaholic when I was younger, but married 10 years ago, and I am now a mother of 2. After giving birth, I switched to working from home to focus on raising my children. Previously, I would work overtime or on weekends to support others at work, striving hard to achieve results. I now have a routine where I finish work on time, take care of the house, and spend time playing with my kids, something my younger self would have found unbelievable. My 8-year-old son, Sean, loves anime and games and prefers staying indoors. In contrast, my 6-year-old daughter, Emma, enjoys playing outside, often not wanting to leave the park once she's there. Both my husband's family and my family adore our children, always greeting us with smiles that light up their faces whenever we visit. Not only do I have a great relationship with my kids, but also with my in-laws. They live nearby the house we built 5 years ago, and we often invite each other over. They treat me like their own daughter and sometimes share delicious recipes with me. Time flies, doesn't it? Little Emma is already in school. Has she joined the ranks of the older kids now? Yeah, my light blue backpack is cute, isn't it? On a warm spring day, as usual, my in-laws came over, and we ended up discussing this. Emma then put on her backpack and spun around gracefully in front of them. With Emma starting school and becoming a bit more independent, I transitioned from working at home to going into the office. Despite things going well at work and having wonderful kids and in-laws, I still have some issues to deal with. My husband, Daniel, 3 years my senior, was not cooperative in parenting. When we have kids, I want to shower them with love so much that they'll say they love Daddy. I want to take them to the park on weekends and read them a bedtime story every night. It seemed like a lie compared to his actions after we had kids. He would wake up around noon, eat lunch, and then retreat to his room, leaving me to take the kids to the park. He would go to bed earlier than me and the kids, not even staying to read them a bedtime story. Sorry, I'm swamped right now. Can you take care of Sean and Emma for me? Whenever I was cooking or when it was dangerous for the kids to be around, I would ask him for help. But he'd soon be absorbed in his smartphone, starting to watch anime with them. Dad, let's play a game together. Let's jump on the trampoline. Even when the kids invited him to play, he would say, "Oh, sorry, but I'm busy," without even making eye contact, and then go back to staring at his smartphone. The kids, having seen this behavior for so long, no longer expected anything from Daniel, leaving only me to respond to their calls for play. With the kids at an age full of energy and eagerness to play, deciding where to go on weekends often led to disagreements between Sean, who preferred staying indoors, and Emma, who loved the outdoors. If Daniel could watch over one of them, it would be possible to satisfy both their desires. However, he hardly lent an ear to such requests. Could you help a bit more with parenting? As the kids grew, they gradually became capable of more things, but there were still moments when they couldn't be left alone. The range of activities expanded with their growth, and I often found myself overwhelmed handling it all by myself. Daniel's response, however, was cold. I'm busy. Taking care of the kids is the mother's job, so you deal with it. Regretting now is pointless, but I wish I had recorded Daniel's behavior about 10 years ago. Then I could have shown him how eager he was about parenting and reminded him, "You said you'd be involved in child rearing, remember?" No matter what I said, his response was always that he was busy. Yet I felt something was off. Daniel's previous company had gone bankrupt, and he had been working at the same company as me for about a year, thanks to my referral. Though we worked in different departments, we should have been equally busy during peak times, but I hadn't noticed an increase in my workload. I wondered if he had been given some significant responsibilities, but Daniel's return home became later and later, and my suspicions only grew. There were also days he didn't come home at all. Hey, you've been coming home late recently. We have kids, and I was hoping you could come home a bit earlier. I'm returning to work full time, and there might be days when I come home later than usual. Stop nagging. I'm busy with work. I already told you to handle the kids. I didn't mean to come across as rude, but he didn't handle it well and shouted back really loud. His loud voice woke the sleeping children, who peeped through the door gap, looking worried. Before I could apologize, Daniel raised his voice again. Hey, what are you looking at? Go back to sleep now. Don't talk to them like that. My irritation inadvertently raised my voice in response to Daniel's harsh words, intended only to vent his frustration. From then on, not only did he become colder to me, but to the children as well. They became visibly scared, and even on the rare occasions Daniel came home early, they would quickly return to their rooms without talking, avoiding the living room. I come home early for once, and this is the attitude I get? Day by day my stress accumulated, and I spent many days feeling uneasy. Then, one day at work, I witnessed an unbelievable scene. Daniel was in a small meeting room with a young female employee, just the two of them. I couldn't see the woman's face as it was hidden. However, Daniel had a smile on his face I never saw at home, seemingly genuinely enjoying himself. Maybe they were just discussing something unnecessary for work. Maybe she just needed some advice, nothing more. However, their proximity to each other made me doubt it was just that. Just as I was about to leave, I saw Daniel gently touch the woman's hair. Feeling uneasy, I took several deep breaths to calm my racing heart. The reason for his late returns was because he was with her. He was always on his smartphone, probably waiting for her messages. It all made sense now. Filled with suspicion, I decided to hire a detective agency to investigate Daniel's infidelity. My worst fears were confirmed. Daniel was having an affair. The other woman was Hannah Wagner, a 25-year-old employee. Their age difference was shocking. They would either go out to eat or to a hotel after finishing work at their regular time. Several photos of them, walking arm in arm in the entertainment district, were pulled from an envelope, and I sighed heavily, resting my hand on my forehead. They went to places a few stations away from the company to avoid being seen by colleagues, which explained his late returns. Now that his infidelity was confirmed, any love I had for Daniel completely vanished. The word divorce fluttered in my mind as I tucked the envelope into my bag, making sure to hide it in a place the children would never find. Kids, Mom might be getting a divorce from your dad. I decided to tell the children about the divorce without mentioning the affair. When I brought it up after coming home, both of them looked surprised. They didn't fully understand what divorce meant yet. I explained that divorce means we won't be a family with their father anymore. Right after I finished explaining, both of them nodded repeatedly. They expressed their agreement through their actions. It's okay. I don't really like Dad anyway. He never plays with us and always gets angry. Dad is scary. I was stressing about how they'd handle the divorce, but now I'm not as worried. Considering Daniel's actions, such as his infidelity and lack of care for the children, perhaps it's better if he isn't around. I decided to start preparing for the divorce, beginning with sorting out our belongings. Whether Daniel had realized his affair was discovered or not, he continued to come home late as usual. Additionally, he started wearing his suit and claiming to have work on weekends more frequently. I knew he was probably seeing Hannah. He might pretend to be reluctant about working on weekends, but I didn't miss the smile that played on his lips. Of course, he would come home late, sneaking into the house after the kids had gone to bed. When he saw me still awake, he would click his tongue and disappear into his room. Watching his back as he failed to notice the decreasing number of belongings in the house, I couldn't help but be dumbfounded. I had been packing our things into carry-on cases and storing them in a storage unit. One day, while I was busy packing and Daniel had supposedly gone to work on his day off, he came back. I've been silent until now, but the truth is, I have a mistress. She's pregnant. I was already aware of his lover, but hearing about the pregnancy was new. He told me that after meeting with her today, she informed him of her pregnancy. I'm pregnant, so hurry up and divorce your wife. She has said that to him, prompting him to come back home and talk to me about it. Initially, his voice was almost a murmur, but as he started to grasp the reality of her pregnancy, his voice brightened, and his face turned into a smug smile. I was relieved that the children were at my parents' house. They didn't have to hear about his mistress. So, I'm going to live with my mistress now. You old hag, take the kids and get out of this house right away. Even though I was planning to break up with him, it kind of bothered me when he called me an old hag. I almost fired back that he was older, but I just smiled instead. He looked puzzled by my smiling response, not expecting me to be shocked or saddened. I had no intention of refusing to leave. In fact, it was what I had wanted as well. I accepted his decision right away. Well, Dotard is fired from the company, and of course we'll be getting a divorce, and I'll be taking custody of the children. Daniel, who had never been addressed as Dotard by me before, or told he was fired, began to look unsettled. Hey, since when have you become so important that you can call me Dotard, and have the power to fire me? The Dotard was simply mirroring the way Daniel had always spoken to me. I wasn't trying to act superior, but in reality my social standing was indeed higher than his. After all, I was his boss. I've become the president of the company. Huh? You're joking, right? His voice turned incredulous, but seeing my serious expression he realized I was not lying. Initially, when Daniel and I met, my uncle was the president of the company, but it was actually my father's company. My father had raised me to be his successor, with my uncle supporting me in that role. However, my father passed away suddenly while I was taking a break from work for childcare. The family was plunged into mourning. My father was beloved for his kindness and integrity. I remember how many people cried at his funeral. It was my duty to ensure the company continued in his honor, which my uncle had taken over as president in my absence. I hadn't shared this with Daniel. I missed the chance to tell him earlier, but in hindsight, it might have been for the best. Daniel's work attitude was far from commendable. I had received complaints from other employees about him slacking off, delegating his work to others, and bad-mouthing colleagues while sucking up to his superiors. I've regretted introducing him to the company countless times. I'm glad I didn't spill the beans about being the next CEO, especially since I knew he had a tendency to act out. The reason I switched from remote work to a full-time position was to prepare for becoming CEO. What? His face went pale instantly, and sweat trickled down his cheeks. Dropping his bag with a thud, he suddenly knelt down. The man who had been looking down on me was kneeling down before me. Oh, I'm sorry. No, please forgive me. However, I had no intention of forgiving him. You've been embezzling company funds, haven't you? Spending it all on your lover, right? Though his face was hidden, his utter stillness revealed his panic at being unable to lift his head. And you've been engaging in inappropriate activities during work hours, haven't you? We have evidence, so there's no escaping it. Among the photos provided by the detective agency were some taken during the day, showing Daniel and Hannah Wagner sneaking out of work. There were also testimonies of them engaging in questionable acts within the office premises. It felt as if my father's cherished company had been tainted, and I couldn't contain my anger. I dumped the contents of the envelope on Daniel's head as he still knelt down. Surprised by the sudden shower, he lifted his head to see the photos, turning even redder. Looking down on him as he trembled, it was clear everything was exposed, and he was speechless. People like you cannot stay in the company. You're fired. As I said this, I showed him a document I had already filled out, a divorce petition. You'll be paying compensation, damages for embezzlement, and child support. And of course, both you and Hannah Wagner will be billed. I could see the shock on Daniel's face when I said his lover's full name. I answered the door and saw Hannah about to come in with a big bag right after I left. When I let her in and told her the same stuff, she reacted just like Daniel did. And just so you know, it's not me and the kids who are leaving, it's you two. The belongings I had been packing were not mine or the children's, but Daniel's. It's kind of pathetic how he doesn't even realize his stuff was slowly disappearing. Moreover, the house was in my name, purchased with my father's inheritance, so there was no way he could evict me. What's the meaning of this? This isn't what you told me. You said we were going to kick out the old hag and I could live here. She screamed in a piercing voice, boldly insulting me now that Daniel was fired. Amidst this chaos, I watched the unfolding scene before me. Daniel, confronted by Hannah, made an awkward face, clearly aware that the house wasn't his. In essence, he had lied to make himself look better to Hannah, boasting about a property he didn't own. Believing that living in a large house meant wealth, Hannah targeted Daniel for his perceived riches. However, in reality, he was neither the owner of the house nor wealthy. His salary wasn't particularly high, and I had been covering most of our living expenses. Hannah, who was only interested in money and not genuinely attracted to Daniel's personality, began to sharply criticize him. The woman who appeared affectionate and close in the photos was nowhere to be seen, revealing her true colors driven by monetary interests. Attacked by Hannah, whom he thought loved him deeply, Daniel was left dumbfounded. This is the worst. Why could I even date such an old man? What did you say? If I hadn't known you were like this, I wouldn't have dated you either. Things got heated between them. The man who had just called me an old hag was now being called an old man by her. I can't deal with someone like her. Hey, Tracy, let's start over. The kids need a father, don't they? It had been a long time since he had called me by my name, having always referred to me as you. A father? You have some nerve saying that after barely involving yourself in parenting. The kids said they don't need a father like you. Then Daniel slumped down, defeated. I forcefully evicted Daniel and Hannah, making sure to lock the door behind them. It was later revealed that Hannah's pregnancy was not Daniel's child. She lied about being pregnant, thinking I would divorce Daniel and let her live in the house. When I later met my in-laws, they immediately apologized. I'm truly sorry for our idiot son. We can't take his side anymore. To teach him a lesson, we've disowned him. After the divorce from Daniel, I technically should have had no further relations with my in-laws, but I didn't want that. The kids loved them dearly, always showing their brightest smiles around them. It might be presumptuous to ask, but could we still see our grandchildren? Hesitantly asking, I firmly nodded in agreement. 10 years later, as the now high school-aged children and I were at my in-laws' house, the doorbell rang. Is it a delivery? Both in-laws shook their heads in unison, sighing and looking exasperated. Assuming it was some salesperson, I decided not to inquire further, but the doorbell persisted. Finally, my father-in-law, tired of the incessant ringing, went to the door. How many times must I tell you? Don't rely on us anymore. A quarrelsome voice could be heard from the entrance. Hey, what are you doing coming in uninvited? Then rapid footsteps approached, starkly different from my father-in-law's calm steps. Oh, Tracy, it's been a while. The man who appeared was disheveled with long unkempt hair and a beard. Though his appearance had drastically changed, I immediately recognized him as my ex-husband Daniel. Time had changed him so much. Noticing women's shoes and sneakers that didn't belong to my in-laws, he realized we were there and came in. Please, I'm begging you, remarry me. After Hannah left me, I got fired and couldn't find a job anywhere. I have no money and can't afford a place to live. Despite his dire situation, it was all the result of his own actions. He tried to appeal to my sympathy, but my heart remained unmoved. Shifting his gaze from me to the children, he attempted to appeal to them. Hey, it's your dad. You've missed me, right? Why do we live together? Who? Not out of spite, but Sean was genuinely unsure of who he was. His face was mostly hidden by his hair and beard, and they had last seen him when they were very young, so it's understandable they didn't recognize him. Emma then said to him, Our dad is someone else. Hearing this, Daniel finally noticed the ring on my finger. I opened my smartphone's photo album to show him recent family pictures. I've already remarried a long time ago. We've forgotten about you and have been living happily, so please, don't bother us anymore. My father-in-law pulled Daniel out, and it was like a trip down memory lane. He stayed on the doorstep for a while, but then left looking pretty sad. Since then, we've had no further contact from Daniel. Whatever he's doing or wherever he is, it doesn't concern us. As I continue to run the company and make time for my family, the children have recently expressed their desire to be like me. I hope to continue being a role model for them. I'm sorry, but could you move out of your parents' house? We want to live there. Such an incredibly selfish demand for my sister. How much more does she need to take from me before she's satisfied? My name is Wendy, and I'm 32 years old. I got married 5 years ago, but now I live alone. That's because shortly after getting married, I ended up getting divorced. I met my ex-husband, Scott, in a university club. It was a film research club, a club dedicated to making films. I had entered university as a regular student, but Scott took a gap year and joined a year later. Essentially, even though we were the same age, he was a year behind me. As a senior, I had a bit more experience, and I took it upon myself to teach Scott everything from how to use a camera to how to edit footage, as he was completely new to filmmaking. Naturally, for two people of our age, we quickly became close, not just within the club activities, but also started dating. Scott often visited my family home, where I lived with my parents. I have a younger sister named Michelle, who is 2 years younger than me. Because we were only two siblings, Michelle always used to say she wished she had a brother, and Scott fit right into that role for her. Scott became like a real brother to Michelle, and the two of them got along like siblings. It wasn't uncommon for the three of us to go out for meals or watch movies together. Even after I started working, our relationship continued. In the following year, after Scott also started working and got used to his job, we decided to get married. Living together in an apartment we rented was truly blissful. Despite being busy with work and household chores, the thought of being able to live together without anyone else's interference filled me with joy. We even dreamed of having children, at which point I would quit my job to become a full-time homemaker, wanting to build a bright and smile-filled home and prioritize family time above all else. However, one day that life came to an abrupt end. The dreams I had painted shattered so easily. Around the time when it was almost a year since we got married, a friend from the same university club whom we hadn't seen since getting busy with work and social life contacted me out of the blue to catch up over a meal. When we got married, our club members celebrated with us, throwing a party, but since then we had all become absorbed in our own lives and hadn't met. I was thrilled by the invitation, genuinely looking forward to this reunion. But contrary to my excitement, the face of my friend who I met up with was somehow gloomy. The first question was unexpected. "How's Scott doing lately?" Surprised by the sudden question, I asked with a puzzled look. "What do you mean, how? He's as fine as ever. Why do you ask? You seem a bit off." Then my friend looked me straight in the eyes as if she had made up her mind and said, "Don't be shocked, though I know it's hard, but there's something I really need you to hear." As I looked puzzled, my friend began to tell me something unbelievable. "I saw it." Impatiently, I leaned forward. "Saw what?" "I saw Scott walking with another woman." Saying this, my friend pulled out her phone and showed me a picture. I was speechless when I saw it. In the picture, Scott was holding hands in a lover's grip with none other than my sister, Michelle. My friend also had taken pictures of them entering a hotel. "I really debated whether or not to tell you, thinking it might be none of my business and that it would hurt you. I'm sorry." My friend sounded truly apologetic, but I tried not to make her feel bad. "It's okay, really. Thank you for telling me. I'm glad I heard it from you." My voice was trembling, but I forced a smile and thanked her. Then I took a picture from her, and we parted ways that day. After parting ways with my friend, I couldn't accept reality. My mind went into a panic, and I was so shaken that I barely remember anything that happened afterward. Despite this, I somehow managed to walk home, one step at a time. Scott and Michelle indeed got along very well and seemed like real siblings whenever they were together. Even after we got married, Michelle would occasionally come over to our place to hang out. I couldn't believe that they had been meeting in secret behind my back. The day my friend saw the two of them together was a day Scott said he would be home late because of client dinner. Scott works in sales, so I knew he had various social obligations. But I had noticed that he had been coming home late more often lately. Despite this, I tried to support Scott, who was working hard. I made him balanced, nutritious lunches to take care of his health, and always tried to act energetically, even when I was tired, to make him feel at ease. Yet to find out he was betraying me behind my back, especially with my own sister, was a real shock. The fact that even my sister betrayed me left me deeply disturbed. Scott was supposed to be at home since it was a day off, but when I returned, he was nowhere to be seen. Late at night, when Scott came home, he was surprised to see me.
Oh, Wendy, you're already home? I thought you'd be out later since you said you were meeting a friend.
Scott, unaware of anything, started to relax and take off his coat. I could faintly smell women's perfume on him. I have something to talk to you about, so I came home early. Scott frowned slightly at my stern expression, but sat down at the table obediently.
What's up? What do you want to talk about?
He asked casually while drinking a beer. Could you take a look at this? I showed him a picture from my friend.
What's this?
Scott seemed truly shaken by my demeanor. As soon as he glanced at the screen, his face turned pale. This is you and Michelle, right? You don't look like siblings-in-law here. More like lovers. Scott's face grew even paler. This image shows you entering a hotel. So, Scott, what were you doing? Scott, in a panic, denied everything.
It's not what it looks like. It's a misunderstanding. There's no way we'd go to such a place.
Despite his attempts to deny it, with such clear evidence in front of us, do you really think excuses will work? How could you do such a thing behind my back and still live in this house as if nothing happened? It's unbelievable. Both of you. To think my own husband could enter into such a relationship with my sister? As I spoke, holding back tears, Scott eventually confessed everything. It all started when he ran into Michelle on his way home shortly after we got married. They decided to have tea together, and from then on, they met in secret for meals and drinks, gradually developing romantic feelings until they finally crossed the line.
No, I can't stop thinking about Michelle. I feel bad for you, Wendy, but Michelle really loves me.
He says so. How can you say such selfish things? What about my feelings? How are you going to take responsibility? Just the other day I went shopping with Michelle. Despite everything that was going on with Scott, she managed to go out with me as if nothing was amiss. I felt utterly disappointed in Michelle. And just like that, I lost all affection for Scott. Then, as if to add insult to injury, Scott said,
I'm not just saying this because we got caught, but I'm sorry. I want a divorce. I want to be with Michelle. We're serious about each other, and Michelle is pregnant.
I was stunned. Not just by the mention of divorce, but also by the fact that Michelle was pregnant. I have longed for a child with Scott. The shock left me in total disarray. I feel sick. I'm going to rest for today. Let's talk more about this tomorrow or later. Struggling to keep myself from collapsing, I went to the bedroom and got into bed. When I woke up the next morning, I wished yesterday's events were just a dream, but they were undeniably real. Perhaps because he felt awkward entering the bedroom, Scott, who must have slept on the sofa, was nowhere to be seen. I couldn't comprehend what was happening, and I searched the entire house for Scott, opening every door, but Scott was nowhere to be found. Upon closer inspection, all of Scott's belongings, including his clothes, had vanished cleanly, and only a single piece of paper was left on the table. It was a divorce paper with Scott's name on it. I tried calling Scott in a panic, but the call didn't go through, possibly blocked. I immediately tried to contact Michelle as well, but to no avail, just like Scott. Thinking they might be together at Michelle's apartment, where she lived alone, I rushed over, only to find it completely empty, with only the furniture left behind. Faced with such a cruel reality, everything went dark before my eyes. The two had eloped and disappeared somewhere. Alone in Michelle's room, I collapsed and cried. That night, blinded by tears, I trembled as I signed the divorce paper. Since we were children, Michelle always wanted what was mine. As her older sister, I tried to give in to her as much as possible to avoid making her cry, but I never imagined she would take away something as irreplaceable as my husband. I wondered if Michelle truly loved Scott as he claimed, or if she wanted him simply because he was my husband. No matter how much I thought about it, I couldn't find an answer. I even inquired at their workplace, but both Scott and Michelle had quit their jobs, and I had no idea where they were or what they were doing. My father was furious with both Scott and Michelle and said he would disown Michelle. He warmly welcomed me back to the family home now that I was alone. And so, 5 years have passed since then. At that time, I was consumed by grief and became like an empty shell, but I gradually managed to focus on my work and stand back up with encouragement from friends and colleagues. I became a workaholic as a way to fill the void in my heart. My efforts were recognized by my company, and I was recently appointed as the leader of a new project, further motivating me to dedicate myself to work. Then one day my smartphone rang, and to my surprise, the caller was Michelle. I was severely shaken, hesitated, but decided to answer the call. Hello? I answered the phone cautiously, but the voice that came through was Michelle's, cheerful and unchanged. Big sis, long time no see. How are you? It was as if the elopement had never happened. Michelle's voice was bright just like before. How many years has it been? Really miss those days. How's work? Well, you must have been promoted, right? I didn't answer Michelle's question and instead asked, Why are you calling all of a sudden? What do you want? I was a bit irritated when she responded, Scary. What's that about? We love the same person after all. I'm still happily living with your hand-me-down. But life is unpredictable, isn't it? Was she serious with what she was saying? I was beyond angry and utterly dumbfounded. Though I was informed, due to being out of touch, it seemed they had indeed gotten married soon after and had a child who was safely born. Michelle began talking about her son without considering my feelings. My kid's about to start kindergarten soon. It's nice to see him grow up, but it's hard because it costs a lot of money. It's hard being a parent. I think about it deeply. I couldn't remain calm enough to accept Michelle's words. And I didn't want to continue the conversation with Michelle and wished to hang up as soon as possible. You're so mean. Are you still hung up on this? It's been 5 years. It's childish. Just forget about it already. As I stayed silent in anger, Michelle continued. Well, whatever. Actually, kids grow up fast and we might have another family member soon, right? We're thinking of moving to a bigger house, but honestly, both Scott and I can only work part-time jobs now. Ever since we quit our previous jobs, for some reason we just can't get hired anywhere, and we're barely getting by. So I was thinking if we moved back to the family home, we wouldn't have to pay rent. My irritation reached its limit. What are you trying to say? Basically, I'm saying, can you give up the family home? You're living there now, right? We're in a more desperate situation. I'm sorry, but can you move out? We want to live there. And can you lend us some money for the time being? I felt like I was going to collapse from such selfishness. Huh? Why do I have to move out? And I don't have any money to lend you. When I finally spoke up, living with your sister would be awkward, wouldn't it? Since you're a single aristocrat, you can afford to rent a new place, right? You have the money, but you're still stingy. Some things never change. Michelle laughed as she said this. Is she some kind of demon? That's ridiculous. Why don't you ask Scott's parents for help? Michelle laughed even harder at my suggestion. Impossible. We can't. If that were an option, I wouldn't be asking you. Scott has had a falling out with his parents since then, and they don't even come to see their grandchild. They're really cold people. Scott's parents had gone out of their way to visit my family home to apologize after the two eloped. They apologized to me and my father in tears for their son's misconduct. There's no way they would welcome Scott back now. So, sis, please talk to Dad and convince him to let us live there. At the time of their elopement, my father was still alive. My mother had passed away before my marriage, and my father had been living alone. A few months after I moved back home, my father was diagnosed with cancer and went through repeated hospitalizations. Last year, he passed away. Michelle was out of touch, so I couldn't inform her, and she wasn't invited to the funeral. I couldn't inform you, but Dad has passed away. I'm the only one in this house now, but even if Dad were here, it would be the same as with Scott's parents. He wouldn't forgive you guys or let you live here. That's the situation, so I'm not leaving. And it's impossible for you two to live here. That's the end of this conversation. As I tried to hang up, wait. Why didn't you tell me Dad died? That's terrible. You didn't know because you guys blocked my number. What followed was even more unbelievable. Michelle had the audacity to say, If Dad had passed away, what's happening with the inheritance? I should have a share. Don't hide it, give it to me. It's my right to inherit. She began shouting wildly. The house should be mine too. We're just two sisters. It should be divided equally. Why do you get to keep living there? Give me my share. Michelle's tone shifted dramatically, as if she had become a different person. Dad didn't leave anything for you. Don't expect anything. Hearing this, Michelle grew even more agitated. That can't be true. You're lying, hogging all of Dad's inheritance for yourself because we're not there. Although Michelle continued to yell, I forcefully ended the call. My father indeed left nothing for Michelle, having taken immediate action after she eloped with my husband. Consulting a lawyer, he ensured everything, including the house and all his possessions, would be inherited solely by me. As per my father's wishes, I inherited everything, leaving nothing for Michelle. I never wanted to hear her voice again, but she called back, insisting, You can't hang up. We're not done. I was astounded by her persistence, especially regarding money. I'm an heir too. You can't just say I don't have a share. That won't stand. I explained carefully that our father had no intention of leaving anything to Michelle, but she was too furious to listen. I won't give up. I will get that inheritance. Michelle ended the call. Perhaps they were desperate for money. Michelle's greed made me uneasy. A few days later, Scott called. I anticipated this, but his attitude was even worse than Michelle's. Hey, Wendy, I hear you've been spreading lies to Michelle. Despite everything, we're still family. I'm your sister's husband. Why are you so cold? I was taken aback by Scott's audacity. Oh, is that so? I explained everything to Michelle. You filled her head with lies. What about the inheritance she's supposed to get? The rights to the property, life insurance, and all that. Scott bombarded me with questions about the inheritance, his voice lacking any trace of the Scott I once knew. Scott, maybe you should tell Michelle to visit Dad's grave first. Can you both stop obsessing over the inheritance? Everything I told Michelle is true. Dad left a will stating he left nothing for Michelle. Everything in this house is not hers, nor yours. I want nothing to do with you two ever again. Don't show up in my life. After hanging up, their obsession with the inheritance left me feeling a bit frightened, knowing they knew where the house was. I installed a security camera at the entrance and spent many anxious nights. However, for some reason, they never showed up, even after a month. I was living in fear of them, so I had a mutual friend check on them, revealing their shocking situation. Michelle claimed she and Scott were both working part-time jobs, but in reality, Scott was unemployed. Michelle was forced into working night shifts, while Scott spent his days drinking. Michelle, for her part, neglected their child, spending her days off gambling. It seemed that they were trying to steal my father's inheritance from me because they didn't want to work themselves. Eventually, they couldn't even afford to contact me, lacking money for both transportation to persuade me in person and to pay their phone bills. Despite knowing their dire situation, I felt no sympathy for them. I later learned from a friend that both had engaged in affairs with married individuals, resulting in mutual claims for compensation and drowning them in debt. I couldn't care less about how they would manage their lives from now on, but I hoped, for the sake of their innocent child, they would somehow find a way to live together properly. Amidst this chaos, I remained focused on my work and was promoted to an overseas department manager, becoming the first female to hold such a position in my company. Planning to live abroad for a few years, I decided to rent out my family home. The tenants were a newly married young couple. My father, who always supported me, would have been happy if such honest people lived in the house, rather than lending it to my sister and her husband. I thought this to myself as I looked at a picture of my father and mother in a faraway foreign country.